I never thought I would live to 96 years old. My name is Arthur Menden. I am 96 years old, and there is one thing I do differently from almost everyone I have ever known. One simple thing that most people completely ignore, and that I believe changed the course of my health in a way I never expected when I was young. But before I tell you what it is, I need to tell you where I came from. Because without that part, the rest doesn't make sense. I was born in a small town in rural Brazil, in a family of farmers. My father woke up before sunrise and went to sleep with it. My mother cooked 3 meals a day, every single day, without fail. And I grew up learning that food was a serious matter. It wasn't pleasure, it wasn't entertainment, it was fuel. It was respect for the land that produced it, and for the work it took to put it on the table. When I was in my early 30s, I moved to the city to work at a printing shop. And that's when things started to change. Not just for me, but for the whole way people ate. Work was sometimes at night. The rhythm was different. And suddenly people were eating late, snacking at midnight, having coffee and bread at 11 at night because the shift wasn't over yet. And nobody thought anything of it. It was just modern life. It was progress. I did that for years. I would have dinner late, sometimes at 10 at night. I ate whatever was available whenever it was available. I gained some weight, started having that heavy stomach feeling that you learn to ignore because you think it's normal. My blood pressure went up. My doctor at the time said it was just age, that I was in my mid-40s and my body was changing. I believed him because that's what everyone believed. But then something happened that changed everything. My father-in-law, Mr. Joachim, was 78 at the time and was an extraordinarily healthy man for his age. He took no medication at all. He slept well. He had an energy that put 50-year-olds to shame. And one day I asked him directly, without beating around the bush, what he did differently. Because I had been hearing that kind of thing from long-lived people for years, and nobody ever knew how to answer it properly. It was always, I don't smoke, I walk a little, I don't drink much. Vague answers that didn't truly explain anything. But Mr. Joachim looked at me and said something that has stayed with me to this day. He said, Arthur, after the sun goes down, I don't eat anything that needs to be digested while I sleep. I found the phrase strange. I needed a moment to think about it. And I asked him what he meant by that. He explained it in a very simple way, the way a man from the countryside explains things, with no scientific vocabulary, no theory whatsoever. He told me he learned from his own father that the human body was not made to work while it sleeps. That sleeping is for resting, and that if you put heavy food inside yourself before bed, you are asking your body to do 2 jobs at the same time, rest and digest, and that neither one will be done properly. At the time, I listened carefully, but I didn't change a thing. That's how we are when we're young. We hear something, find it interesting, and do nothing about it. I kept having dinner late, kept eating whatever was in front of me. Then I turned 55 and I had a health scare. It wasn't a heart attack, nothing that dramatic, but it was enough to stop me in my tracks. I was having severe acid reflux, waking up in the middle of the night with chest pain that left me in a panic, unable to sleep more than 4 hours at a stretch because the discomfort wouldn't let me rest. My doctor prescribed a series of medications. I took them for a while, things improved slightly, but it never truly resolved. That's when I remembered Mr. Joachim. I decided to run a IE test. One thing only. Stop eating after 6 in the evening. Not become a vegetarian, not start running, not take any supplement. Just that. At 6 in the evening, the kitchen closed for me. If I wanted water, fine. Unsweetened tea, fine. But solid food, food that required real digestion, ended at 6. The first 2 weeks were hard. I won't lie. I would wake up at 10 at night feeling hungry. I would think about food constantly. My mind would create needs that my body didn't even have. And I realized that most of what I ate at night wasn't out of hunger. It was out of habit. It was out of anxiety. It was because it tasted good, because it was comforting, because it was the moment of the day when I finally stopped and sat down and could eat without rushing. But I kept at it. And by the end of the first month, something changed. I started sleeping differently. Not deeper right away, but differently. I woke up less often during the night. The reflux began to fade gradually. Not all at once, but it left the way a pain leaves when you've learned to live with it and suddenly realize it's no longer there. My morning energy changed. I was waking up with a lightness I hadn't felt in years, maybe decades. And so I continued. Not because anyone told me to, not because I read it in some book. I continued because my body told me it was working. In the years that followed, I came to understand what Mr. Joachim had told me, in a way that perhaps even he couldn't have put into words. The body has a rhythm. It has an internal schedule that we can't see, but that is there, functioning, trying to do its job. And when we eat late, especially the heavier things, the fried foods, the fatty meats, the sweets, we interrupt a process that should be happening naturally during the night. The body that should be repairing itself, cleaning itself, restoring itself, gets stuck trying to process what you threw into it at 10 o'clock at night. I am not a doctor. I won't pretend to be one, but I'm 96 years old and I take 2 medications, one for blood pressure that has been controlled for decades and one for my thyroid. That's it. I sleep well. I walk every day, not very far, but I walk. My mind works. My memory still serves me well enough that I can tell you all of this without losing my way in the middle of the story. And when people ask me what I do, I could give a complicated answer. But the truth is that the simplest thing I do, the thing I believe has made the most difference to my health over the course of decades, is this. I stop eating early. And after 6 o'clock, I don't eat anything heavy, nothing that requires real work from my body to process while I sleep. Not heavy fried foods, not fatty meats late at night, not excessive sugar when my body is already beginning to prepare for rest. Those specific things, the fried foods, the concentrated sweets, the processed meats at the end of the night, those are the ones I believe interfere most with the quiet work the body needs to do while you sleep. It's not about being perfect. There were days over all these years when I ate late because it was someone's birthday, because there was a gathering, because life happened. But those days were the exception, not the rule. And the difference between doing something as a rule and doing it as an exception is everything. There is something I learned from living this long that I want to share with you, not as advice, but as an observation from someone who has been through a great deal. We underestimate how much the body needs time without work. We live in a culture that believes more is always better, that doing more, eating more, consuming more is a sign of abundance and of health. But the body's rest, the silence of the stomach during the night, the chance the organism has to reorganize itself while you sleep, that has a value that you only understand when you begin to respect it. I think about Mr. Joachim sometimes. He died at 89, in his sleep, without pain. And I always thought he left the way he wanted to, the way he lived, with lightness. We make many choices in life that seem small at the time. The hour we go to sleep, what we put in our body before we sleep. These are choices that don't seem important when you're 30, when you're 40. But these choices accumulate over time. They get recorded in the body in a way that you'll feel later on. I am not here telling you that you'll live to 96 if you stop eating after 6. Life isn't that simple, and I know that better than anyone. But I know what changed for me. And I know that it's something that costs nothing to try. What I eat before 6 can vary. Some days it's simpler, some days it's a good full meal. But what I don't eat after 6, that is the habit I have carried for decades. No heavy fried food before bed, no fatty meat late at night, no excess sugar when the body is already beginning to prepare for rest. Those specific things are the ones I believe most disrupt the silent work that the body needs to do while you sleep. When I look back at everything I have lived, at all the work I did, at the people I have lost and the ones I still have near me, what seems most true to me is that longevity is not a prize that falls from the sky. It is a series of small choices, repeated with patience, over a very long time. And sometimes, the most powerful choice is the simplest one. What you decide not to do. What you decide not to eat. The silence you give your body when it needs it most. I am 96 years old, and tonight, as every night after 6 o'clock, my kitchen will be quiet.